May 15th, 1948. And then there was a very hard decision to be taken. What do we do? It was already 6 months into the war, and the Israeli side was doing very badly. We lost already, by that point, we lost 1,000 men, and civilians and soldiers, and out of a population of about 600,000. Okay, there were many more wounded, and the U.S. pulled its support to the creation of the State of Israel. You know that there was a big debate in the American administration whether to go ahead with this or not. And in November of 47, there was a strange sort of situation when both the Soviet bloc, it's the very beginning of the Cold War, both the Soviet bloc and the American bloc vote for the partition plan. It's not that the foreign, the State Department liked it so much, they were very much against it. The powerful Marshall, the Secretary of State back then, was very much against it. Truman, though, is the one that took the decision. President Truman personally took the decision to go ahead and vote for the creation of the State of Israel. The Russians sided with the partition plan because they saw Israel as another sort of socialist state. And they had what to count on. I mean, Israel started as a socialist state. All the people who came here and all the political system was pretty much... So both the Soviet bloc and the American bloc vote for, and the two-thirds majority was achieved. But the war started, and we were doing so bad that the Americans pulled their support. In March of 48, there was a lot of pressure applied against the government, the professional government here, and they had to take the decision what to do. It was very clear that if they go ahead and declare statehood against the advice of everybody around, the neighboring Arabic armies will invade as well. And now we'll have to face not just the local Arabs, but also the 7 armies of neighboring countries that would invade. And it was a very tough decision. Eventually it was Ben-Gurion, the prime minister of the professional government back then, that almost forced everybody else to vote for. It was taken 6-4 and 4 against. Go ahead and declare statehood, but it was his will. They said, you know, if we don't do it now, we'll lose it forever. And when the British are pulling out from Haifa in Shabbat, it's Saturday, May 15, they cannot declare a Jewish state on Shabbat, right? And they're gathering together on Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock. They can't do it in Jerusalem because Jerusalem is under siege. It's disconnected from the rest of the country. So they're looking for a location in Tel Aviv, and they're picking this place. And at Friday afternoon, May 14 at 4 p.m., just before Shabbat, they're gathering here, some 300 people in there, and it leaked, of course. It was a very, it was during the war. They were afraid that they would be bombed, they were afraid that, but it was leaked, and there were hundreds of people here waiting for the statement to be made, and it was a speech of about 25 minutes in which Ben-Gurion read the Declaration of Independence, which is the first sort of legal document of the State of Israel, where he says that based on the historical rights to the country, the biblical right, the UN partition plan that was adopted by the UN as a UN resolution, and he declares Israel as a Jewish democratic state. And this is, like, as we said, the DNA of the State of Israel till today. Homeland to the Jewish people, but it is a democracy, so it offers equal rights to all the minorities. And he invites in his speech here all the Arabs to stay and become part of this new endeavor. And the next morning, like at about noon, the British are pulling back from Haifa, and all the Arabic countries are invading the newly born state. But this time around, since we have a state, we have the ports, we can bring in weaponry that was bought ahead of time into the country. And after another about 10 months of fighting, Israel is not just surviving, it's also being able to push them out, and it's holding much more than what was promised to it according to the partition plan. And these are the borders of Israel from 48 to 67. So it all started here. That's the Independence Hall. Very simple looking building.
Independence Hall.
But this is where this very dramatic event took place. So we're running water, electricity came shortly after that. This is where the water tower of the city stood for many years. And now it's a memorial for the 66 families that started the city. Yeah,
A water tower of the city.
Very typical eclectic 20s kind of architecture. Years before Tel Aviv, crossing here, beginning of Tel Aviv, it's also the center of the financial district, and all these glass towers are the headquarters of all the financial institutions. We have 5 big banks, 2 big ones and 3 medium-sized banks, and many insurance companies, and this is like, all of them are around here. So how do you bring all these glass towers to the same area without killing the sort of the feel of the very beginning of Tel Aviv? The way they worked it out is that they built the glass towers to the back of like this is a great example of this. One of the first houses of Tel Aviv, you see it up in the front, and they built the glass tower in the back of it. Actually, they sort of had to play a little bit and push the older building all the way to the front, so the lot there would have enough room to carry this glass tower. And the idea is to allow you walking the boulevard to have the feel in your eye level. It would still be the old buildings of Tel Aviv, renovated and nicely done, but there would still be place for these glass monsters to bring in what the city needs. Another trick they played here was to, as we walk by, you see on the right side, they sort of lifted up to the level of 3 stories or the back of the building, so you can see through it the buildings that are on the back of it. We'll see it in a minute. Let's cross over. Famous building, it's called the Pagoda building in Tel Aviv, and this was obviously 20s, right? This is not Bauhaus. But this was the home of the Soviet Union embassy in Tel Aviv. There were diplomatic ties all the way till 67. And then they cut the diplomatic ties with Israel. So this was the headquarters of the KGB in Israel. And now it's being used by others. The Russian embassy is elsewhere today, but it's a beautiful renovated building from the 20s. Same sort of spirit of
The floor sounded.
That's the certificate on it to prove it. First month. The Israeli chapter of Evergreen. Evergreen is a very large venture capital fund.
You see the building, it's added in the back?
Right.
Yeah.
There's all sort of contemporary.
When did the figures? It's just art, they could add it in.
We passed the clock tower of Jaffa that was built 100 years ago.
Since 1817.
Sabbath.
And this is sweet.
Very bad, and we were talking about the name Ophir and what rhymes with Ophir, and she found almost 1 million words that rhyme with Ophir. So this is poetic license. It's called Ode to Ophir. Ophir as a guide has no peer. His knowledge of history is clear. We've learned more than we would in a year. To ensure we always reappear, he is constantly watching our rears. I think that's why. When we leave, he lists all our gear. He's the best if you are a sightseer. To all of us, he's been a dear. Tell all of the travelers with a fear they never have anything to fear. So let's all raise a glass of beer and give him a very loud cheer.
Oh,
That's the nicest ever.
Great, Cece, that was great.
That was the one.
That was great.